Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined by the corn dog man himself, Jerry Hamilton. We're waiting on Bobby Burton. He should be here in just a moment. But Jerry, you have girded your loins. You got mayonnaise on corn dogs. Man, it's 8:16 in the morning. That's a little early for mayonnaise on corn dogs, Jerry.
Never is, man. Never is. I mean, you got to do what you got to do because nobody else did it. Where's Woodsy Bobby? See, I had to double barrel these things this morning because I knew I was going to be alone.
I got to remove the banners so everybody can take that in.
Hey. There's a reason I'm late.
Do you see that? Throw the mustard off, you wuss. If there was any doubt that Friendswood guys are tougher than Dobie guys, this definitely makes it weird. Jason Watts, Friendswood guys tougher than Bobby and the Dobie guys.
That's just untrue. You guys had it easy. Y'all were in like 3A or 4A. Give me a break. Y'all grew up when Friendswood wasn't even 5A, Jerry, talking about tougher. Come on now.
I never would have dreamed that we were going to open the show like that, but here we are, guys. All right, so how I originally planned on opening the show, and welcome, Bobby, by the way, is I wanted to ask everybody to tell us your favorite play from the A&M game. Obviously, Texas fans have a lot to be excited about. But guys, I'm going to start here. Goal line stand, I think, was the biggest play of the game, but curious to get y'all's thoughts and the chats as well.
Oh, play of the game. I have so many. I don't know about you guys. I woke up a little giddy this morning, guys. Just fair warning. I wish here would be my play of the game. I wish I love working at home. Like me and my wife, we have a great time every day, hang out, talk, etc. She's my best friend, all that stuff. But for today and today alone, I wish I was in an office with a coworker that happened to be an Aggie, just so I could give them that, hey, how you doing? That 17-7 smile or smirk. You guys know what I'm talking about. But no, favorite play of the game on Saturday. Blake, I'll go with you. That Ethan Burke just swallowing that play before it even had a chance to get going, right? I mean, it encapsulated the entire game because, look, no touchdowns. Absolutely no touchdowns allowed by the Texas defense. And even when put with their backs against the wall like that, they came up huge. So, yes, I'll go with that play. But really, I'm still soaking in the aura of the 17-7 Aggie defeat, Longhorn victory. What about you, Jerry Hamilton?
Look, the thing about y'all hit the nail on the head, but the thing about the game to me is the forever bragging rights of a game like this. And for those that don't remember recruiting or don't know, Jaden Blue and Bryce Anderson are cousins. Jaden Blue forever has that catch in the back of the end zone on his cousin.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Bryce is a really good player and had really good coverage. But forever in that family, Jaden Blue has bragging rights on that one play.
Some family reunion in like 2060, and Jaden Blue's going to show up with a 17-7 T-shirt.
So I'm not done yet.
Oh my God, Bobby, I'm waiting on you to break yours out.
We'll wait on that. We'll wait on that. I may be waiting until after a national championship.
Oh, man. All right, guys. I tell you what, Bobby, before we move on, do me a big favor and tell everyone out there about John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group.
Yeah, absolutely will. And thank you for the opportunity. And thank you to John for his sponsorship all season long of Coffee and Football. John is a proud Texas Ex's Life member whose wife and 6 siblings are all UT grads. This family passion led John to brand his firm Longhorn Wealth Management Group and dedicate it to providing investment, retirement, insurance, and estate planning services and solutions to Longhorn families and friends across the nation. Like all Longhorn fans, John reveled in the beatdown Texas put on the Aggies Saturday, and he is looking forward to being in Atlanta to watch our Horns battle Georgia for the SEC championship. John and the Longhorn Wealth team want to help all OTF fans beat back procrastination and other hurdles facing anyone's wealth building plans by offering all OTF fans a free 90-minute consultation to help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and secure your legacy. Now, call John and the team at Longhorn Wealth 972-707-4900 or go online, www.longhornwealth.net, to schedule your free consultation today. John hopes to see each and every one of you in Atlanta if you can make it. Let's beat Georgia and hook 'em.
Thank you for that, Bobby. And guys, let's talk about, of course, the SEC championship this upcoming Saturday against Georgia. I'm going to put it up here. Bear with me. Texas opened as a 1.5-point favorite. That is now at 2.5, over under set at 49. But curious to get y'all's thoughts on this very, very close line.
Jerry, I have a question for you on this.
Yeah.
And it's actually a little bit different. You think Quinn plays better in domes or turf fields? I mean, because he grew up on that. I mean, he really did. I don't think. Look, a fast track isn't going to help Texas over Georgia. They're both fast teams,
right?
But it might help Quinn a little bit, and just an ounce better of him is worth a lot. That's one thing I thought about. Quinn is probably better in dome stadiums at some level, just because of how he grew up, 7-on-7, all that stuff in South Lake and what they have that he's played on. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't also help Carson Beck a little bit, but a little bit different, I think. You agree with that or no?
Yeah, well, I think there's maybe something to it with him. But the one thing I think about with Quinn in this game, he should have extreme motivation in this game. I mean,
yeah, this is his revenge game.
He was a third-year starting quarterback that Sark had to pull in the first meeting. That should give him 1,000,000% motivation in this game. This is a true. You very rarely get a chance at a true bounce back in the same season against the same opponent, and Texas has that, and Quinn has that. And because when I look at this game, Texas got bullied in their own house. They got beat physically in their own house. And that's a really good place to be if you're Sark this week. With that said, Georgia is the one team that I think can defensively take away some of the bread and butter of the Texas offense. So what's Sark going to do? So, for instance, against A&M, the Ryan Wingo crosser, intermediate crosser, that's a longer developing play. If you don't pass pro it up real quick, real well, those plays don't have time to develop. And then their linebackers have the athleticism, size, and power on contact, but it's really the speed of those guys and quickness and reactive quickness to really close down the perimeter passing game, the screen game. So there's two things that Georgia has that nobody else has that Texas plays against. And it's going to be really interesting to see what Sark does the second go round. But I know the offensive line is going to be motivated, and I think they've made some changes there in terms of some scheme. And Quinn should be as motivated as he's ever been for a game, in my opinion.
Look, I agree with Jerry on all this. There are two bad matchups for Texas on offense in everybody that will be in the college football playoff. Georgia is one of those, because it's not just that over route that Jerry's talking about that they have the speed to handle. It's the outside zone play, because they've got the nose tackle that can control the middle and hold firm, and they've got the speed and physicality at linebacker to play in space and hold points. A&M did not have the linebacker play. They were bad at linebacker.
Yes.
I've watched that game now 3 times. A&M was absolutely horrible, in my opinion, at linebacker play. I mean, some of the worst I've ever seen. So, and I mean that. I mean, Torian York, he may be a captain of that team. He's not a good linebacker. Not in this conference. And I'm guessing this will be a meme or something, but he got washed almost. If he wasn't rushing, Jerry, he got washed on run plays time and time again. Now, credit to him for getting back up and getting back on the horse and trying to do it again. But it didn't work very often for him. But Georgia and Notre Dame are the only 2 teams that have the personnel that are going to be in the playoff that can do that, Jerry. Only 2, unless South Carolina makes it in.
Which they should. If anybody in the committee's listening, and why wouldn't they be? Y'all better put South Carolina in for Alabama.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I agree.
I don't care that Alabama beat South Carolina first half of the season. Alabama got dog walked in Norman by a team that can't dog walk a high school. Couldn't dog walk Duncanville on Saturday. Okay, it's Duncanville's offense. If they put Alabama in over South Carolina, that's BS.
Hey, Jerry, there's precedent for this. Do you remember when Texas got left out in 2008 after beating OU?
Yep.
And Texas never got dog walked by anybody that year.
Yep.
I mean, they lost the last second play to Tech. Yeah, I mean, South Carolina is a better team right now than Alabama, unquestionably. Alabama's too hot and cold based on Jalen Milroe being hot and cold. One player centric.
We'll talk about this later, but for the playoff committee, I think what will be interesting, and we'll get in this later because I know people have recruiting questions, and why wouldn't we want to answer those? Is if Clemson beats SMU, the playoff committee's in a really tough spot because South Carolina won at Clemson. That will be less than 10 days ago. So you're really going to leave South Carolina out in that scenario? Good luck with that, playoff committee.
I think no team with 3 losses, unless you played in a conference championship game, is going to get in. That's my take on it. I think they're going to give 2 to the ACC, especially if Clemson wins. That's my feel.
But they might.
Yeah. All right, Jerry, you mentioned recruiting. We've had a ton, and I mean a ton of questions regarding recruiting.
Questions, Blake.
So I'm going to let you just jump right into it.
Yeah, so Joseph Mbaktu flipped back to Florida yesterday, 8 days of committing, 8 days being a Texas commitment, which is about par for this cycle late. But it flipped back to Florida, Josiah Sharp. But we'll take questions. Josiah Sharp was on campus at USC yesterday. Florida's just going after Jamie French, Myron Charles still. Florida, Colorado going after Zealous Hicks. That one, it means Texas has really, really, really good players committed. Second, that means you're in the fight of your life to keep all these guys, right? Because if you have really, really good players, Texas has a number 4 ranked class. They have a lot of tremendous football players committed, and those guys are wanted by other programs. So that's a good thing, and then that's a tough thing at the finish. People have asked about Michael Fasusi. Look, based on everything I hear in recruiting in this cycle, I would say it's unpredictable. That may be putting it too lightly. I think I'd be surprised if Oklahoma's where he was. So it ended up. So if it comes down to Texas and Texas A&M, who has the advantage there? I don't know. I think there may be a slightly more optimism in Austin than College Station, but signing day isn't until December 4th. And even some guys may not sign on the 4th, like Justice Terry may not sign until the 6th. So there's the 4th, there's the 5th, there's the 6th, which is when all this will be decided. But I think there's been some tough news for Texas, and I do think someone else will flip today or tomorrow from the class. And then I think there's some positive things happening too. So it's if you're when you get on that airplane and they talk about turbulence and dropping the puke bag down in the air. That's recruiting in this cycle, man.
Hey, you're starting every morning with your post right now, and it's just called "Gird Your Loins."
I don't know. Like, That's
wild. Pretty appropriate.
Yeah. Somebody's asking about Jamie French. I've been around them multiple times. What's your honest opinion? I think Jamie wants to be at Texas, but that one would actually surprise me a little bit. But I have been surprised in this cycle.
Yeah. CJ Vogel, Jerry just sent us a text message. Nebraska making a late run at Michael Terry, apparently. That's the word there as well. Hey,
I like Texas' chances there, but we'll see.
Yes, exactly. Hey, I want to say this. You were talking about the play that I remember from that game. Obviously, the goal line stand, Blake, was one of those.
Yeah.
But Quentin Wisner was just, on the chat line that put a hook 'em emoji and stuff. I think one of the things I'm going to remember is just watching Trey Wisner go to work, and not any singular run per se, but isn't that a lasting memory of that game for y'all? Like just him bouncing around, getting 6 yards or 7 yards when you thought he might get 2 or 3. That is a lasting memory from that game for me as well.
Well, and I would say there's a second part to that. There are a few plays, and Bobby, you've watched the game where all 5 Texas offensive linemen won their matchups on run plays. Like all 5 guys won their matchups. That rarely happens.
Jerry, I sent this. I sent you and Rod and Coach Shipley and Brian Irwin the video clip of a play that happened in the third quarter that I just happened to pick out, and it was a Trey Wisner run for roughly 8 yards. Okay,
yeah.
On that play, DJ Campbell hits Shamar Turner, who's supposed to be a high round draft pick. Jerry,
third
rounder guy.
Yep.
DJ Campbell hits him on contact, just right that initial pop that 2 linemen have. Shamar Turner goes 3 yards back. I mean, Jerry, you saw it.
Yeah.
And Cam Williams comes for the double team at that point. And he's like, oh, well, DJ's already got this one handled, right? And then you look at the backside of that play, and Jake Major and Hayden Connor have totally displaced their side of the ball. And Trevor Goosby's engaged. I mean, it's not necessarily a parting of the Red Sea. It wasn't this ginormous hole, but it was a butt whipping up front on that play. I mean, just absolute. But I mean, DJ Campbell literally. I tried to post it this morning on Texas Football so you guys can see it. I don't know that it attached when I wrote the article this morning. I'm gonna try to get that up after we're done. But my God, Jerry, it was one of those where you just go, you saw it. I mean, you're like,
well, look, I want to read. So I sent that clip to former Texas offensive lineman Donald Hawkins, a friend who trains a lot of offensive linemen nowadays, played in the NFL for a while. I sent him that video, and I said, watch DJ Campbell. He said, damn self-will. I said, moneymaker game for DJ. He said, I would say so. That's from a former NFL offensive lineman who trains guys like Lamont Rogers, Michael Fasusi, and some really good guys up in DFW, has worked with Cam Williams.
Yeah. That was you just don't see that in college football. I mean, it's like he was shocked that he got pushed back. It was if I were Mike Elko, I would be, we're in trouble. Like, knowing we're already in trouble, I'd say we're really in trouble. It's worse than I thought. So anyways, good stuff. That a lot of memories from that game, though. I think that's completely and totally fair to say that it's not just any one play, Blake. There are several pieces of it. The overall defensive performance. Barron Sorrell, I don't think, was blocked all day. I mean, their poor tight end had no chance. I mean, no offense. I mean, he had no chance.
We had a couple of questions I wanted to hit on. Somebody asked about, because the portal has now, everybody's making their announcement. They're in the portal. Julian Humphrey. Somebody asked about Julian Humphrey, son of John Humphrey, one of the greats that come out of the Houston area, running back, kick returner. That was A&M that had interest in him the last time. I'd be a little surprised at Texas. He kind of lost his spot at Georgia late in the season. And by the way, leaves Georgia before the SEC championship game and playoff, by the way. Something to watch in the portal coming up. But I'd be a little surprised. Now, obviously, the Micah Hudson questions are going to be on all over the place because he was a highly ranked recruit. I just want to remind people that Texas prioritized Ryan Wingo over Micah Hudson the first time, and I think we all think Sark was correct on that. So I'd be surprised if they made a push. I think there's going to be some really talented and productive receivers enter the portal, and everybody's throwing out Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams to me is like Mason Graham in what's the other
Kenneth Grant. Yeah.
Everybody, these guys are going to go to Texas. Okay, they never entered the portal. Alabama's not letting Ryan Williams leave, man. No chance. And with that, I'll have another corn dog bite.
I was going to say, I literally had to ask, are you still holding the corn dog 20 minutes later? And the answer is yes, obviously.
Oh, my God. I don't even know what to say. All right, we're going to come back to more questions, especially more recruiting questions here in a little bit, guys. But first, let's take a look at some scenarios. ESPN is projecting two different scenarios for Texas. If they win the SEC championship, they have them facing off against number 7 Penn State. Texas, of course, will be the number 2 seed. If they lose, however, ESPN's projecting Texas to be the number 6 seed versus number 11 Arizona State.
Woo!
So the scenarios are going to be fun to talk about for the next few days around the SEC championship game. I think that is spot on. And I'm not saying who the 7 would be, but I do think that's where it's at. Unless Oregon loses, then Texas is the 1. But if we say Oregon beats Penn State because James Franklin generally doesn't win those games, everybody breaks through at some point. Let's say Oregon's the 1 and say Texas wins and they're the 2. I do think that is worth how that would play out potentially. But then if Texas loses the SEC championship game, 5 is kind of where you want to be. But I think if Texas loses the SEC championship game, Notre Dame's going to bump to 5. Texas finishes 6. And 6-11 is not bad. I mean, look, if you get Arizona State, and then who did they have as the 3 in that one?
The 3 would be Boise or whoever the ACC winner is.
SMU. That's a wheelhouse.
Yeah,
that's
one second, I'll try to put it up.
That's what I'm saying, Jerry. I've been talking about this. Would you rather potentially play Penn State in the quarterfinals or SMU Boise State? Because if you lose this game, you're going to be playing teams that you could beat in your sleep. And I'm not theoretically. I mean, you can't sleepwalk, but that's why I don't like this seeding. Not at all. Now, if SMU up and beats Clemson, I don't think SMU is going to beat Clemson.
I don't either.
SMU is going to get consumed by Clemson.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And then the playoff committee better do the right thing and put South Carolina in over Alabama. They better do the right thing at that point. There's a bunch of former college coaches on that. You would think they might make the right decision. You would think in that scenario. Yeah. So if looking at this, look, this is why it's Georgia. What's interesting to me, guys, is if Georgia loses the SEC championship game, by the way, I think a ton is on the line for Georgia. Because if they win, they're obviously get a bye. But if they lose, I disagree with this. I think that's their 3rd loss, and I think they play on the road in round 1. If they lose the SEC championship game, I don't think they're hosting a first-round game. And in fact, I could see it being a scenario where they're on the road up north. Maybe it's at Penn State. The way things could play out. Maybe it's at Tennessee. They've already played once. I don't know if they do that, but I just don't. I don't think Georgia's going to host a game if they lose the SEC championship because that'll be 3 losses for them.
No, they won't. They won't host. They'll be 9 through 12, and they'll be the toughest 9 through 12 matchup for anybody.
But can you imagine if they turn around and Stephen Houston says Georgia loses their hosting, Jerry. I disagree, Stephen Houston. I disagree. That's 3 losses. I don't think a 3-loss team is going to host unless they win a conference championship.
Yeah.
I don't think it's happening. And could you imagine if you get sent north to play Ohio State or Penn State in round 1?
I think they'll be the 12 seed if they have 3 losses potentially, and they'll be playing at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
That's more the reality to me. Unless Clemson, Clemson beats the tar out of SMU, then maybe SMU's the 12.
All right, guys, before we get to some super chats, I saw this question and I wanted to ask you all this. Archmania says, what are the things to fix in the next 4 days? Archmania also goes on to say Bert Auburn, Isaiah Bond, Moore's hands, Wingo's targets, Wisner's backup. What else? But what would y'all say are the main things to fix in the next 4 days?
Look, I think Isaiah Bond is what it's going to happen. I think DeAndre Moore has hands. His hands are fine. He had 2 drops the entire year. Wingo's targets, they clearly prioritized that twice. As Rod called out, there were 2 plays in that game on Saturday that were specifically designed only for Ryan Wingo. They weren't going anywhere else. So Sark is recognizing he's got to do it. The one that Jerry would probably agree with me on is Bert Auburn.
People want to run hash.
That is absolutely something that needs to be worked on. Bobby Petronic mentioning Quinn's ankle. That's a legitimate one as well. But I think the one that could cost you games are fumbles from Jaden Blue and missed kicks. Those are, I mean, look, Texas goes up. What happens if Texas goes up 20-0 at halftime against A&M? I mean, the A&M was not coming back from 20-0. There was no way they were going to score 3 touchdowns against that Texas defense. Not with Marcel Reed at quarterback or anybody else they had on that roster at quarterback.
Let's look at some super chats here. And we're going to start with this one from Jason Watts. Thank you, Jason. Right off the bat, that's a big super chat. And he says, get well, Colt. Jason, we definitely appreciate that. In case you can't tell, we're back at the hospital. So,
did he have appendicitis essentially as a byproduct of what went on the other day?
Yeah, basically. So, he'd been complaining about some pain and things like that. And Saturday during the A&M game, actually, it got to be pretty dang bad. And so we called up here. They said, yeah, let's bring him in. Something's not right. Go through all these scans. And sure enough, a ruptured appendix, which they said was also kind of impeding the process of healing with the spleen as well. So, we kind of killed 2 birds with 1 stone there, but they did say that the spleen looks phenomenal because they took a look at it while they were in there. So thank you, Jason, and thank you, everybody. And then we got this one here from Matty M. Thank you, Matty. He says, good morning, y'all. 11 wins back-to-back, 3-0 in rival games. Good times. We need Tuscaloosa and Michigan the rest of the way, not Tony Romo. Tuscaloosa and Michigan Quinn the rest of the way, not Tony Romo Quinn. Hey, dogs, better hide Georgia in that acrylic doghouse on Saturday.
I would say this. Quinn's got to stay away from catastrophic turnovers in this game.
I agree. He had 2 on Saturday. He had 2.
And 1 against Kentucky, but it wasn't a close game. But he was injured.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pick sixes, essentially the ones that fumble against Kentucky back-to-back weeks.
And I'll tell you what, he threw a third one possibly on that first series where the next play was the arch run. That ball could have been picked by Will Lee. He's got to be more careful with the football in the red zone going in, Jerry. No questions asked. He's got to do it. He's you know what? But I will say this. Quinn was feeling so good in that game and so confident because he was playing. The first 2 quarters, other than that 1 pass,
it was the best he had looked since Michigan.
Exactly. Okay. So that confidence, he was feeling that, and I think that may have led him into a false sense of confidence, and that's what happened a little bit. So he's got to deal with that a little bit better going forward. But look, I'm ready for Michigan and or first 2 quarters of A&M Quinn. He looked really good on Saturday night, evading pressure, by the way, Jerry. We'll see how long the Aggies have their current defensive coordinator, by the way.
I was somebody in the chat said that ball was intercepted because it was tipped. I think it would have been intercepted anyways.
Yeah,
it was late and there was no separation.
And he undercut it.
Yeah.
I went back and watched it a couple times. Will Lee had undercut that route too.
Yeah, it was going to be the same result. And that's one where you can't make that. You started 30 games. You can't make that throw. You started 30 games, you're up 17-0. You're in control of the game. That ball can't be late.
Just eat it.
Got to eat it. Take the field goal.
Yep.
Can't have catastrophic turnovers in this game or the rest of the year.
It's just situational football, right, Jerry?
Yeah.
I mean, that, and that was short of the first down marker too.
Yeah.
Situational football there. It's okay. I mean,
okay.
Texas escaped. Texas escaped. They're moving forward. Quinn had a good game overall, in my opinion.
Played really well up to that point. Really, really well.
Yeah. Just got to keep going.
Because look, here's the best Quinn we had seen for me in a while. When he's hitting throws in the intermediate or vertical outside the numbers, that's when Texas offense is going to be at its toughest to defend, because teams that play him know that's not his strength. So when he's hitting those balls, Sark kind of has everything at his disposal from a passing game standpoint. And you need everything at your disposal this Saturday against Georgia because it's the most athletic, physical team you play.
All right, guys, before we move on, and don't forget, we'll come back to your questions here in just a moment, but I want to tell everyone out there about HelloFresh. And with HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. You can skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Everybody loves the holidays, but it's definitely one of the busiest times of the year, so you don't always have time to cook. There's no need to stress, however, as you can save valuable time during the busy holiday season with fewer trips to the grocery store thanks to HelloFresh Market. There's over 100 add-on items you can add to your weekly box, like quick breakfast, packable snacks, beverages, and a lot more. And personally, I'll tell you what, they're a lifesaver this time of year for both my wife and I. Of course, we're busy with our kids, with holiday shopping, playoff football, everything that goes on this time of year. And with HelloFresh, we don't have to worry about making meals when we're short on time. So join me and countless others who use HelloFresh to save time and money this holiday season. They're going to give you guys 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/freeontexas. That'll be applied across 7 boxes. It's for new subscribers only. And of course, it varies by plan. That's 10 free HelloFresh meals just by going to HelloFresh.com/freeontexas. And that's HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. And Jerry, I'm going to let you tell everyone out there about the good folks at Public Rec.
Yeah, look, guys, and if there's any Aggies listening, this one's for you, man, because y'all had a lot of brown pants leaving the foul field Saturday. I bet that place smelled like if you were standing in a cow pasture with the wind coming into your face. I bet that's what that smelled like from all the brown pounds. But look, tired of squeezing into those stiff dress pants at holiday parties? This season, unwrap the gift of comfort with the Game Changer pants from Public Rec. The office pants that look like Monday, but feel like Sunday. Who doesn't like that? Imagine clocking in while feeling as cozy as if you were still in bed sipping hot cocoa. With a soft hand feel and a smooth drape, these pants are fan favorites for a reason. Whether you're closing deals in the boardroom, navigating holiday travel, or mingling at company parties, the Game Changers will keep you looking sharp and feeling great. Public Rec is the ultimate men's clothing brand for blending comfort and style seamlessly. And trust me, you won't be disappointed. That is the one thing I can say. Stop suffering in regular pants and give the gift of comfort this holiday season. For a limited time only, our listeners get 20% off when you use code ONTEXAS, all caps, at checkout. That's 20% off with code ONTEXAS, all caps, at publicrec.com. After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support the show and tell them we sent you. Give yourself and someone you love the gift of comfort this season. Or if you have any Aggie friends, you may want to buy a pair of them for them too after Saturday.
Soiled khakis. That's the core on Saturday night.
It very much was.
Oh, God.
Swords up, pants stink.
Brown spots on the back.
All right, Dante, we thank you for your super chat. It couldn't come at a better time. He says, walk in your trap, take over your trap. Shout out to Sark, the defense. Arch, who looked a little freaking stiff. Quinn, Trevor Goosby, Texas wants the smoke. Revenge tour.
Dude, let's talk about Trevor Goosby, Jerry. Out of that group. Sark, I was on a press call yesterday with Sark and Kirby Smart and those guys. Sark really did a nice job of giving Trevor Goosby a hat tip. He said that he had worked really hard from the very minute he stepped on campus, and that he has transformed his body. He wasn't one of those big humans from a typical Kyle Flood perspective. Like he was tall and he had room to grow, but he wasn't the 350-pound or 375-pound Cam Williams or even 325 Kelvin Banks.
Yep.
And he said he has been so dedicated and done everything they've asked, not just from an on-the-field perspective and learning from coaching, but the off-field stuff with nutrition and with Torrey Beckton. And Jerry, you and I know his father a little bit, comes from a great family. Could not be happier for him and his family and what he did. Sark said, and he compared it to, look, a year ago, Cam Williams is now being talked about as a legit big-time guy, right? And going first, second round, whatever the mock drafts have him at. He said Cam Williams started that one game at either Kansas State or BYU. I think it was Kansas State. And that one game gave him an inordinate amount of confidence in himself going into the offseason. Like it proved to him that he could do something. You know what I mean? It wasn't just, I'm not just talent.
Yeah.
I could go do it. And hopefully for Trevor, that Quentin Weiser, shout out to Mike Goosby, Trevor showed up. He did. That's my take on it, Jerry, is extraordinarily happy for that young man because he played hard. I mean, how many times? One false start, and it came like 2 quarters after he was in. Right?
Yeah.
It didn't happen immediately because it happens on a beat like that. Texas still went down and scored.
Yeah. So my thoughts on Goosby are I've talked at length about what you said, Bobby, and it's so true. When he was at the Under Armour camp, his spring of his junior year, I think he was checked in there 6'6" and a 8 and 268. And look at him now. He's a late developer physically, basketball player, but his body, he continued to grow. But I thought and then get to development before I get to the key part about Saturday. You know, so many kids are in a rush to get to the field and kind of overlook the importance of the development. And it's not add water instant player. Will Muschamp said it famously for years, and I've used it since then because it's such a good statement, is they were on a 2-year plan. That plan got a little accelerated on Saturday night, and it's going to help Trevor Goosby a lot ahead in the next year. But this was a plan for development. So, and he has been locked in on that development. And that development, you have to be locked in. You can't miss a day. You can't miss a week. You have to be truly dedicated to that development timeline. And Trevor and his family, they looked at that development timeline with Kyle Flood, and everybody went all in on it. And you're seeing the returns of that now. But my biggest takeaway from Saturday was this. This is a very intelligent football player, and it can function in pressure situations. And you know how you know it if you've never had a conversation with the kid. They left him on the backside to protect Quinn Ewers in that game. A lot. So they trusted his ability to play in a pressure situation, having very little playing experience. That says a lot about what Sark and Flood think about Goosby's football intellect and ability to handle pressure.
Hey, Jerry, Blake, if you don't mind, can you bring up Bobby Betronic's comment that you had put up just a second ago? Because this is a perfect opportunity for it. Bobby Betronic, Trevor Goosby looks like Tony Hills at OT, a svelte 315. That's going to be a good topic of conversation on Wednesday when we have Tony on. Because we are going to do on Wednesday, by the way, we've got National Signing Day. That's going to predominate. but we are still going to talk a little bit about the Horns themselves. We'll have Tony on because I got to be honest, I want to have Tony on after the offensive line's performance. We got to have him on again this week, no matter what. So that's a legitimate mention there. Maybe very similar builds. I need to see that, but I've stood next to both of them. Interesting. I think that Trevor may be taller, just for the record.
Oh, he is. I mean, Trevor's
like
6'7". Yeah, he's tall.
Yeah.
Oh, Papa Horn, great question. How's Goosby's brother looking? So for those that don't know, Austin Goosby is a junior at Melissa, 6'5" and a quarter, 6'5" and a half shooting guard wing. Basketball prospect, is rising to be probably a McDonald's All-American. He's had a couple of 40-point games, or one 40-point game, one near one this year. Texas very much in on Austin Goosby, but Austin Goosby has Duke, Kansas, Scott Drew at Baylor. He is being recruited by the who's who of offensive basketball coaches, and some real blue bloods in this sport are coming after Austin Goosby. So we'll see what happens there with Austin Goosby, but he's looking like a McDonald's All-American in basketball. Can really shoot it, trending towards being a 1 or 2 year guy in college and having an NBA future.
Good stuff. Congrats to that family. Just period.
Yeah.
Yep. Good for them. Good things come to people who work hard, man. Trevor Goosby's worked hard. Bottom line. Worked hard and put in the work.
He's had to get a watch.
You know what Sark said? You know what Sark said too? He goes, and look, Trevor Goosby was not this high-rated guy. He's like Barrett Sorrell, not this high-rated guy that came out of high school, but they get in here, they work hard, they do what they can with what they've got. All of a sudden you look up, and guess what we have? We got the heir apparent at left tackle, most likely, for the Longhorns, after a guy that's probably going to go top 5 or top 10 in the NFL draft. So congratulations, and keep work. I mean, and my comment is, use this as incentive to go get better, Trevor.
Yeah,
even better. So you got a taste of what you can do. You know,
all right, guys, we got another super here. This one from Tubin, Texas, going back to talking about favorite plays. He says Norton on third down on the last goal line stand.
Yeah, he submarined it, completely submarined that whole thing, and kept him out. Look, Bill Norton, Jermaine Lole, Andrew Makuba, Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden. Kirby Smart yesterday in his press conference said it best. Sark's done a great job, not just in recruiting, because he's bringing guys along. He's backfilling as well as anybody in the portal with needs. And I'm here to tell you, I mean, I've talked to folks. Texas is going to be aggressive in the portal too, guys. I know people are, what's going on with recruiting? I get you. And Jerry and CJ, we're all following it like a fox, right? But be prepared for some things in the portal if Texas gets an opportunity, because they're going to go after it. The Longhorns have a shot at this next year too, guys. They can rebuild the offensive line appropriately. They've got a shot at this thing next year too. So
somebody's asking about Goosby playing well. Could that affect Fasusi? Look, I'll be surprised if Fasusi sticks with Oklahoma based on what I've heard. Doesn't mean things can't change. We're 48 hours from signing day. There's some optimism in Austin with Fasusi. How would that look? I mean, Fasusi's an extremely talented player, but he's only been playing football 4 years. There's a lot to learn at that position. But there's ways to get on the field, guys, early if you're good enough, if you're ready. But you also have to be willing to look at development too, and we'll see what happens.
Sorry, I forgot I was muted. Our next one comes from Derek Smith. Thank you, Derek. And he says, good morning from South Dakota. Is Trey Wisner running back number 1 next year?
Definitely to start the season, because, look, center backs you just don't know. He'll be released unless there's a setback. He'll be released for August, but that doesn't mean he's ready ready. But you don't know how long it's going to really take him from a major knee injury to get back to on Saturdays ready. So I don't have any doubt that Trey Wisner is running back one next year. If Cedric Baxter can get back to 95%, 90 to 95% of where he was, that's an awfully good 1 and 2 though in college football. You're muted, Bobby.
Sorry, guys. I had to do something. I had to talk to CJ real quick. That's the 1-2 punch you want, in my opinion, is a guy like Trey Wisner that is literally slipperier in space, whether it's the outside zone or in the passing game, and a guy that can run duo and run it up someone's you-know-what, like Cedric Baxter.
Yeah. Hey, Blake.
That's perfect for both of those dudes.
Yeah.
That's why they recruit dissimilar backs.
Yeah.
Right? You don't take two of the same type of back in the same class. That is perfect.
Hey, Blake, I wanted to play James Simon's playoff huddle. Blake's got that pulled up because I'm here to tell you, James Simon looks dadgum good right now in the playoff. This guy is going to be based on what I'm seeing as a senior, we liked him going in, but watch that route. Watch what this guy's doing at the running back position. This is a second-round playoff game. They're still playing. They won a third-round playoff game. By the way, Ricky Stewart, congrats to Chapel Hill. They won again. We've had Coach on here before. But you watch the feet on James Simon here. Watch him run routes, catch the football. Watch the vision. Watch the power. I mean, look, I know it's high school football, but that's an understanding of when to drop your pads and maximize runs and fall forward. And we've had James's dad on here. John Simon was a college football coach and really good running back. So this is a guy who's somewhat like Cedric Baxter. He's going to come in advanced in pass pro and kind of scheme and understanding. But James Simon now looks really good. He got banged up a little early in the year, but he looks really good right now to me, Bobby. And he's got a chance to be a really good player. And Ricky Stewart has a lot of similarities to Trey Wisner to me. The toughness, the skill set. And Chapel Hill's still playing. I think they got Kilgore. They got a tough game here in the fourth round of the playoffs coming up. But I like the two backs Texas has in this class. I think this guy could play early for Texas.
That's good stuff. Hey, the other thing I was going to say, you don't want Trey Wisner was a complete dog on Saturday.
Yep.
And workhorse, whatever the heck you want to call it. You know what I mean? What I would say is you don't want him because ultimately he's got NFL desires, right?
Yeah.
You don't want him carrying it 33 times a game in college.
No.
You want that guy splitting carries to leave some tread on the tires. Now, 1 or 2 games or 3 games a year to win a football game, I get it. But that's not what Cedric Baxter or Trey Wisner or Jaden Blue or any of those guys ideally want to do 10 games a year. Right. So you need that 1-2 punch at running back, especially, I got to say this, especially the way Sark puts those guys out into the pass routes. Because that takes some energy out of those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just sit back and pass protect or go run. Like Ricky Williams, look, he went out like maybe once a game for a pass, twice a game. He either pass protected or ran the football. Your guy can tote the ball 30 times when he's doing that. In Sark's offense, that's a really tough ask.
By the way, Waves Deep, Trey getting 30 carries this weekend. I'll say this. If Trey has over 25 carries this weekend against Georgia, things are going really well for Texas. That's the one thing I would say. That means Texas is having success running the football and they're controlling the game with time of possession. That would be a really good sign for Texas in this game. Because everybody, all the talk is about, going into this game, Quinn, how Sark going to attack in the passing game. But you know what Kirby's number one thing is in this game? Stop the run. Stop the run is always one in these games. And that's number one. And number two then will be putting pressure on the quarterback.
So what does Texas do to counteract that? That because I think they are going to be able to stop the outside zone. They were able to do it the first time. They're probably going to be able to do it the second time. Those things like that don't change. So where did Sark see a little bit of a opening? I want to add this. Something else Sark said. He was asked point blank, how do you prepare for a team the second time? And his words were, look, I was the offense coordinator for the Falcons for a couple of years, and you have in the NFL, I have some experience with that because your divisional opponent, you play twice. You get to really, or your divisional rivals, you get to play twice. So you really get to know their teams. And if you play them two times over 2 years, you're playing them 4 times. You really know what you want to do, and you really know how they want to defend you. He goes, so thankfully, I have some experience with that. And there are some tweaks you'll see here and there with anybody, anytime they play twice. But he went on to say, I don't think I've ever played the same team twice in college.
Right.
Which is a little bit different, right? Because you have different level of experience. These aren't pro players that have 10 years of experience. You're dealing with different younger people. They can, you think they can take in less maybe that then is put out on the field. So that was something that I found interesting that Sark said.
I would say this, one way to open up Sark may have to do things in reverse a little bit in this game of how go off his script a little bit. The one way to open up your perimeter passing, it's normally been perimeter passing game, get those guys running, get them tired, eventually get them false stepping, get them peaking, then you run the football off of that. You may actually have to run the football first because Georgia linebackers, I think they're going to really be keyed in on stopping the Texas run game. So it may be more of an inverted reverse for Sark than it has been at times this year, Saturday. It'll be interesting to see. I think 2-back sets versus Georgia. I think a lot. I would agree with a lot of that. You hope Blue's okay. Well, I'm sure Sark will give updates on coming up on this press conference at 11:30. By the way, we've had 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. I can't remember. There's so many people in the chat. Thanks for the support. Ask about Nick Townsend. Texas feels good about Nick Townsend, but obviously within this cycle, I'll say we'll see on Wednesday.
Yeah, we got 48 hours. We got 48 hours, right, Jerry? Where we got to. I mean, there's people talking about Jamie French and Florida acting like they have a chance with Jamie French after he's been with the Longhorns for a while. Myron Charles was at Florida State over the weekend, who played Florida. We'll see there. Josiah Sharma was at Southern Cal over the weekend, the defensive tackle. Likewise, Michael Fasusi, Michael Terry still out there. Jerry reporting that he doesn't think Fasusi is going to stick with Oklahoma, but what does that mean between Texas vis-a-vis Texas A&M? Michael Terry, CJ Vogel saying Nebraska making a late run there. Look, I know you guys want us to have all the answers. There's a lot of balls in the air right now.
These coaching staffs don't have all the answers right now. That's the one thing.
What'd you say? Say that again.
The coaching staffs don't have all the answers right now.
Yes, that's absolutely true. So we're here to cover it for you. And we'll definitely put it out there as soon as we know. Jerry's already reported that there is one other person that's set to flip from Texas to another team, but we're not mentioning that player at this time.
And Jerry, we're also getting a lot of questions regarding Hilson. Do you have anything on Hilson?
Well, Texas has stayed in contact with Hilson. I think Texas is recruiting him right now, thinking they're working from behind, but we'll see on Wednesday on that. I would say if all things are equal, I think Hilson first Texas. But that's not the recruiting world we live in.
No, it's not.
Not at all. All right, guys. MP Houston, thank you for the super. He says, when Vernon Broughton missed the spring game for his wedding, which could have been scheduled any other weekend, I seriously thought he and the staff were signaling he was done. But what a game for him on Saturday night.
But yeah, for sure. I mean, look, here's the key for me with defensive linemen is so Alfred Collins got double teamed. I don't know, Bob, you've watched the game 80% of the plays.
He was the guy they were worried about.
Right. So when you have the one-on-ones like VB had Saturday night, what do you make of them? He made the most of them. When you get your one-on-ones, how many times are you winning in those one-on-ones? And VB won more than his fair share of one-on-one Saturday. So that's the great thing about where Texas defensive front is at. Alfred, early in the season, Alfred Collins got doubled. Then I think maybe midway through the season, it shifted a little bit in terms of percentages. Alfred got doubled. And then Alfred started just blowing everything up. If somebody is going to double Alfred 80% of the time, Jermaine Lole and Vernon have huge opportunities to win. And what did they combine for? 9 tackles in that game.
Trey Zoon. That he opened his big fat mouth and it got put back on him now. There was one play, Jerry, literally one play where it's that classic Vernon exploded for a sack, I think it was. And you see the offensive lineman running back to the quarterback because he just got his guy just went behind him, and it was the classic. It just looked like almost like a meme. Yeah, Vernon had a great game. Congratulations. And to your point about getting married and all that stuff, he also had a baby. I think people don't realize that. And so I think there were existential circumstances involved there. So I'm happy for him. And yes, what a hell of a game going into your last game at last regular season game, at least, so good for him.
Hey, can one of you do me a good favor and tell us all about Duck Camp?
I can do it, Blake, if you want me to, if that's all right. Jerry
great.
And I both, I'm wearing their Duck Camp gear right now. This is one of their hoodies that I absolutely love. Duck Camp gear is made for people that live for the moments out there where there are fish to catch, birds to hunt, time to kill, and football to watch. At Duck Camp, they believe you can't just sit around and wait for adventure to come to you. You have to get out there, stay out there, and make the most of every second. Here's to great seasons, y'all, hunting and football. Shop gear at duckcamp.com, guys. Really, really great stuff. Great people. Austin-based company as well. Thank y'all very much. Duckcamp.com.
Thank you for that, Bobby. And we got more super chats to get into, guys. A lot of them, actually. And we're going to start here with this one from Michael Schuler. Thank you, Michael. He says, Boss is an Aggie. And lo and behold, he took a PTO day today.
You work for Billy Rucci?
2 Sooners as well failed to show up. They're just prolonging the inevitable.
Yeah, it's lost in all the Texas A&M is that, Oklahoma had their moment against Alabama, and then they went to Baton Rouge, and, they got smoked by the Tigers. Lost in all that. And Marcus Harris is decommitted from there. Jaquez Petaway's jumping in the portal.
Yeah, well, those are both receivers.
Won't be the end of it.
Hey, those are both receivers. OU should bring back all of the receivers that were injured this year, so they should be okay at receiver next year. The question is, are they going to be okay at quarterback and offense?
Well,
and we're hearing they're going after the Washington State kid, right? And the Washington State offense coordinator.
Well, here's the question, though. What does Nick Anderson do? He was hurt all year. Before the season, he was a first or second round level player, depending on the season he had. I thought he might end up being a first rounder. Obviously, he was hurt, and it was a thigh injury that he re-injured. Does he stay at Oklahoma? We'll see.
Deion Burks.
Burks is going pro.
Is he?
They're
saying that he's coming back.
Oh, is he?
That's what they're saying.
Who wouldn't want to come back to that?
Ooh, that's true. Who would want to come back to that?
I would be careful. Nick Anderson is nice, Brandon. Yes, if Nick Anderson jumped in the portal, he would be about as coveted as any receiver in the portal, in my opinion. People forget how good he is because he didn't play this year.
Yeah. Blake, you're muted, buddy.
Gosh, I keep doing that. We got a super chat here from Max, and he says the weekend's MVP is CJ with his F this city, Cowtown. Ha ha.
Easy. Take that away. That was not supposed to make the video originally, guys. Our apologies to anybody that was listening with a kid in the car on Sunday morning. But yes, there we go. We edited that out about an hour after it went live. Our apologies to those who were offended. It wasn't intentional. That much I can promise.
And then Bryson here with the super chat. He says 14 years, guys, without an offensive touchdown for A&M against Texas. Couldn't be us. Look,
well, I got bad news for A&M fans. Colin Klein goes to Austin next year.
Hey, they're going to talk about teams that are definitely going to be in it for the portal for a quarterback.
A&M.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I would say this. Do y'all realize, and we talked about this last night, this is a stat that is just unbelievable to me. Texas played 3 historical rivals. Oh, look at Lisa Vogel with the proud mama for CJ. How you doing, Lisa? Hey, the thing that Texas played 3 historical rivals this year. Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas A&M. Let me ask you guys. 1 touchdown scored against the Texas defense throughout all 3 of those games. No offensive touchdowns for Oklahoma. No offensive touchdowns for A&M. 1 for Arkansas. That's just pretty salty. I don't care how. If you were to ask me that going into this season and tell me that, I would have said no way. You're high, basically. But that was astounding in my opinion. Absolutely astounding. Great job by the defense. In key games, in rivalry games, they brought it. Absolutely brought it. Hats off to the defensive staff, too, for making that happen.
Yeah. All right, David Parcell, thank you for your super chat. There's a reason why Texas was ranked the #1 team in the country earlier this year. It's because they look like it.
Definitely do for stretches.
Yes.
I mean, for stretches and long stretches at times, definitely look like it. I mean, I don't think anybody's like a offense, defense, special teams dominant team in college football, so it's wide open. But I think Texas and Oregon, and you could argue Oregon, but I mean, if anybody's watched Oregon, they've had their moments, have looked really good for stretches. Could look like a team that could take it all for stretches. And I'm not saying Oregon will. I think it's pretty much wide open in the playoffs this year. But Texas has looked like the real #1 for stretches and longer stretches as much as anybody has in college football.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, if they get if Quinn plays like he did in the first half, and is able to move around and evade some pass, like one of the best plays Quinn made wasn't necessarily his scramble down the sideline. That was a great play by Quinn. Avoided the rush, got down the sideline. The best one he got out to the corner and he manipulated the defender with Gunnar Helm.
And the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, at the line of scrimmage. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Those sorts of plays from Quinn are enormous. I mean, because that was a 3rd and 14, by the way, Jerry. It wasn't, you do that on 3rd and 14, that is a backbreaker. Jenny Burton, CJ will go down in history for his iconic reporting in Aggieville. Yes, he will. Good stuff.
All right, our next super chat here. Actually, Paul Elkins. I never saw anything attached to yours, so if you'll send it normal, I will be sure to come back to that. But we appreciate it. Longhorn Frenzy 1, we always appreciate you as well. And he says, shout out to Goosby and the whole offensive line. When you don't hear your name called the rest of the game, you know that you have done your job.
So true. So true. Kirk Herbstreit was fixated a little on Hayden Connor on Saturday night during the broadcast. And I think we don't talk about Hayden Connor enough here, or Jake Majors as well. We focus more on the guys that we think are going to be those top-end draft picks. But Jake Majors, dude, great job, man. Just great job. I'm not sure what else to tell you. And not just great job for A&M, great job for your career. Hayden Connor, same thing. A lot of people thought Hayden Connor wouldn't be starting right now, Jerry. But he's kind of held off NATO. He's held off Cole Hudson to a degree.
And he's playing his best ball.
Yeah. So, I mean, look.
And you want to talk about pressure. I think they're still engaged, but his fiance either went to A&M or still attends A&M, and that's a lot of pressure to win that game at that point.
Can't show up.
You would. I don't know the background, but you would assume there's other Aggies in the family he's marrying into, so you have to win that game at Kyle Field if you're Hayden Connor.
You would also think that she goes to Austin more than he goes to in College Station too.
Well, that's true for most Aggies.
It is.
I mean, Johnny Manziel, Billy
Lucci. Absolutely.
They pay for parking more in Austin than College Station, that's for sure.
Yes.
I got some news here. Justice Terry just tweeted this out. Says my recruitment is now shut down. I will be making my decision on Friday, December 6th.
Yeah. We talked about that. That was likely that he would make his decision on the 6th. Going to be an interesting decision there. There's 4 teams. It's Georgia, who I think is the favorite for obvious reasons. Georgia, Auburn, Alabama, Texas. And so the key with this, after he announces his decision, one of the things that people will want to know is, or you will know if you follow this, is we've been saying it on Texas football. We think one family member is okay with him being a plane ride from home. The other would prefer it be a drive from home. And NIL is going to be great wherever he goes. So there's 3 schools that are within driving distance. And for the one-time USC commitment, by the way, that was too far. But that does tell you he's been open to it. There's 3 schools that are a drive, and there's 1 school that's a long drive or probably flight. So we'll see. But Texas is they're swinging at it. We'll see what happens. But I can tell you this about this recruitment. This would be an upset. In my years doing this, this will be an upset if Justice Terry went to Texas. And upsets happen in recruiting. Kirby Smart's playing Texas for the 2nd time this season, this time in the SEC championship game. Kirby Smart does not want Justice Terry to sign with Texas. No way, no how.
Okay. Paul Elkins, we got his super chat in now. He said, I'm sorry. My question was, what did Ole Miss do to rout Georgia?
They were playing a Carson Beck-led team that was still reeling on offense. And it came at the wrong time for Carson Beck. Ole Miss can get after the quarterback better than anybody in the country. Not just well, but what do they have? 40-some-odd sacks now, Jerry, on the season?
Yeah.
I think, what did they do well? Or what did they do? That Jackson Dart hit a couple of deep balls, and they were able to establish a level of run. But more than anything, Carson Beck was going through a really bad spot. And that was his last bad game.
It was. He's playing a higher level now.
Since then, he's kind of turned it around. Part of that, I think, is less pressure on him as a quarterback. They have tried to reestablish the run game at Georgia, not unlike what Steve Sarkisian did for Quinn Ewers after Georgia. Quinn was kind of reeling at Georgia, and then Sark slowly reestablished the run to what it is now. Georgia is doing something very similar to help its quarterback not feel the weight of the world on moving the football. And I think they're very similar in that regard. I think Texas has better outside skill people, but Georgia's still very dangerous. But Ole Miss got them at the right time. They got them at home. And their defensive front was just maniacal pressuring Carson Beck.
Yeah.
That's how they beat him. And Dart hit a couple of long balls.
It'll be interesting. Carson Beck is playing at a much higher level the last 3 games than he did in Austin in that bad stretch where he had 12 interceptions in SEC play alone. Their receivers are still dropping the football. They had some drops against Georgia Tech. They dropped more 3rd down or 1st down passes, chain mover passes, as any really good team I've seen in a while. They have issues dropping footballs. They dropped 4 or 5 or 6 in the Texas game, and I think 3 or 4 of those were going to be 1st down. So that, like Bobby said, there was a stretch in that first game against Texas. Going in that game, I was told that Georgia was in pass shell offense 72% of the time. That's too high for a Kirby Smart team. They got to run the football more. So it's kind of interesting. It's kind of similar to Texas with Sark in that. And Georgia's pushed to establish the run. Tate Ratledge is back at right guard. They've pushed to establish the run more. Now, is Trevor Etienne going to be healthy for Texas? Probably not. Nate Frazier, they've been leaning on the freshman more and more. But they've had to get into more of a run game as well at Georgia, because I don't think 70 to 72% in pass shell offense is where Kirby Smart wants to be at Georgia, or where they should be.
Our next super chat comes from Longhorn Nation. Longhorn Nation says, I've been impressed with the amount of Texas fans on the road this year. It's been great to see burnt orange everywhere. Hook 'em.
Hey, and that brings up this weekend in Atlanta. I'm definitely going. I think CJ's going. I'm trying to convince Jerry to go. So you guys help me convince him to go. But we will be there. I'm working right now with the folks at the Atlanta Texas X's, like we did last year with the New Orleans Texas X's. We had a little Friday pregame before or maybe in Saturday. I can't remember what day that game was, of the day of the week that game was with against Washington. But anyways, on Friday afternoon, early evening, I think we're going to have a little happy hour somewhere near the stadium or in downtown Atlanta, where people are most likely staying for the game. So I'll be putting that out and letting everybody know. Hopefully anybody that wants to come out and hang out with fellow Longhorns in Atlanta prior to either going out to eat or doing whatever you want to do, we'll be down there hanging out all Friday afternoon and into the evening.
Sports Talk Jay, thank you. He says Texas has only scored one touchdown in the second half between Kentucky and A&M. Is that a fluke or a cause for concern going forward?
Could be a little both in some ways, right? Texas should have scored one, obviously, in the third quarter. Should have scored two. I mean, they were down there. I think there's a little bit of Sark. I will also say this. Sark was running out the clock starting with about 11 minutes to go in the game. I mean, he wasn't even giving Quinn the play until 20 seconds left in the play clock, right? I mean, everybody saw that. Quinn's just sitting there waiting for the play. They were already on the line of scrimmage. So there's a little bit of, it's worrisome because they didn't extend the lead, especially when you had it down deep. I mean, that was the problem, the only problem I really saw with the whole game outside of the Auburn field goal miss was the play in the red zone in the second half and the lack of protecting the ball. But at the same time, Sark's running clock, guys. Yeah. He's trying not to put the ball in harm's way. He's trying to I mean, he had a defense that didn't need more opportunities to get beat deep somehow. There was no reason. So he was taking time off the clock purposely. If that would have been a hurry-up situation, I'm guessing Texas would have scored, but Texas didn't need to.
By the way, somebody in the chat earlier said, I don't know where it's being said, like A&M would have won if Le'Veon Moss would have played. Okay. What if Texas was rotating Trey Wisner and Cedric Baxter in that game? They'd have rushed for 300 yards.
They would have not won with Le'Veon Moss, dude. Give me a break. Amari Daniels averaged 1.9 yards per carry.
And he's a good player.
That's so stupid.
Yeah.
You got your butt whipped.
No.
Oh, by the way, that video I said of DJ Campbell, I got CJ to put it up on the site now if you want to go look at it, guys. It's on TexasFootball.com. We can't show it on video or else we'll get in trouble with YouTube, but it's on the site and it's outstanding.
Random name 25, thank you. Morning, guys. What do y'all think about Burt Auburn lately? Seems like he's pushing a bunch of kicks to the right, and he's not as reliable as last year.
I don't have time to break it down. Somebody maybe will find the stat, but I think the right hash is his issue. I think a right hash outside 40 yards is an issue for him. Center, left hash is Burt Auburn streak. 80% kicker coming into this year. So obviously he hasn't had the year he expected to, or Texas expected them to. But you know what? What if he goes 8 and 9 down the stretch, 7 to 8. Keep them off the right hash.
Get it going, Bert. We need you, dude. We're going to need you not just this game, but a couple more, I think. Going to need you big time. Because a close game is coming.
Could be coming this weekend.
Absolutely.
All right. Jack says, please clarify, if there's no longer NLI, how do they commit?
They sign scholarship papers. That's what they can begin to do, essentially. Jack, used to, there's a national letter of intent organization within the NCAA that administered the NLI. Now they're just going to do it through regular scholarship papers, and it's going to be binding.
And then our next one here comes from Jerry's Jack Links. Thank you as always. I see multiple predictions that place us in the same college football playoff bracket as Georgia. Jerry, you and I were talking about this before the show. Surely the committee would seed the teams to ensure that doesn't happen, right? And we both agree with that.
I mean, we have opinions on this, and I don't think they will, because these two teams have already played twice. I don't think they're going to put them in the same half of the bracket. Now, maybe others' wins and losses this weekend maybe dictate that happening, but I don't think the committee will do that.
Maybe a semifinal matchup, but not a
second round,
not a quarterfinal. No,
I don't see it.
By the way, Jack Lala that just posted, he is one of the nicer guys I've met in all of my time doing this stuff. He and I had lunch over at Martin's comeback on Guadalupe. Really good guy. Thanks for visiting with us, Jack.
So somebody asked about downtown eating recs in Atlanta. I mean, if you're, the varsity down there's I've stopped in there a few times going to schools and whatnot. I'm sure there's better places, but I was just throwing one out.
That's that's chili dogs though, Jerry, instead of corn dogs. I don't know if it's your type. The varsity is right across from Georgia Tech, by the way, if I'm not mistaken.
You can still put mayonnaise on a chili dog.
That I would not do, Blake, because I'd be throwing up.
Oh, dude.
Made Bobby wince a little this morning. All right, Jackson Arnold's agent, one of my favorite usernames on here. 3 is a winner. His road resume is insane. A UT legend.
Hey, we talked about him securing his legacy. First quarterback to go back and win, putting Texas in playoffs back-to-back years. Hell yes, Quinn Ewers is insane. You can talk about it. First Texas team to win 10 wins back-to-back in 15 years. Yeah, I mean, the list goes on. I mean, look, Sark, I'll say this. I'm going to add this to Quinn because he does deserve a lot of credit. I mean, he's handled it so much and so well. The thing that cracks me up, and y'all will say this too, don't forget, what was Steve Sarkisian's nickname when he came to Texas, Jerry?
I'm not saying that.
7-win Sark.
7-win Steve.
Yeah, 7-win Steve was his nickname. Not only has Quinn helped him take that nickname and shove it out the window or throw it into the trash, Quinn Ewers has too.
Look, when Rick Barnes came to Texas, he was called first round Rick in the ACC. TJ Ford helped him get over the hump.
Yep. There we go.
God gives 28. Thank you for the super chat. Why doesn't Texas go 4 wideouts more? They have the receivers to do it.
Because they like Juan Davis as a blocker. And when you can run the ball 33 times for 186 yards with one running back or 240 on the ground overall, would you rather put the ball in harm's way and throw an interception or run the ball to win a game? They will go 4 wides against Georgia, by the way. And they'll go a lot of the pony package with 2 running backs. It depends a lot. Stark is very good at being somewhat dependent and being able to being malleable with his offense versus the defense he's seeing. He's one of the few coaches that doesn't sit there and try to pound a round peg into a square hole. He's got multiple ways he can try to beat you. And so whether it's a 4 4 receiver set, 11 with 11 personnel or 10 personnel or 2 running back. I mean, look, he's done the big tight end, the jumbo tight end package. Sark will do whatever he thinks it takes to win. And right now, he doesn't need a 4 receiver package. They're 11-1. I mean, the only thing better is 12-0, and functionally that doesn't do any better for you right now. You're in the SEC championship game, and you're going to be in the college football playoff. I'm happy with where they're at, man. I'm not second guessing the coach right now. I know that.
And Jeff Carey says Quinn gets a game ball for the first half and a game ball for the Aggies in the second half.
True.
Look, he had issues, but that dude deserves his flowers. He really does. Because we could talk about whether he's perfect. He's not perfect. What quarterback is? There's not one. Okay? We just talked about Carson Beck throwing the ball to the other team 20 times. The thing that Quinn deserves, he deserves everyone's respect for how hard he plays. I mean, he literally had a bad ankle and worked hard to get back and ready for that game, and Texas needed him in that game. Okay? That's number one. Number two is do not ever forget him transferring back to Texas and what that meant.
That was a big deal.
It was huge. I don't know if they get half the recruits they got or kept Xavier Worthy, by the way, without that move.
I think Quinn is the sum of the career is going to be better than any one individual game for transferring back to Texas. What he's done for Texas, and he's done a lot for Texas, is going to be the sum of all that. To me, supersedes the up and down game. Maybe more of an up and down season. And he's had some really bad luck injuries in his career, dating back to high school. I mean, just bad luck injuries. But one thing that happened in the A&M week and in this season, even if it did not go well at times, is same thing he did when he was at Southlake. He had hernia surgery and came back and played with his team in the playoffs and helped lead that team to the state championship game where they lost to Westlake. But he came back. He didn't have to come back. I mean, he had surgery. He could have chilled the rest of the year. And nobody would have given him grief for that after you have a hernia surgery like he did. But he came back, helped his team get to a state championship game. So he's had some really bad luck with injuries in his career, and I do think it set him back a little bit.
And then Sugar Puppy, formerly Sugar Daddy, thank you for the super chat. Says, so Kyle Field smelled like Lubbock.
I mean, Micah Hudson must have thought so.
Jerry, I love it. You're going in today.
Oh, goodness gracious. All right, guys. So before we get to some more questions here, can y'all tell us about South Point Dodge?
I absolutely can. The Stark family over there at South Point Dodge, good friends of the program. Thank you for sponsoring us on Texas football. Football fans, score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock. Award-winning sales staff doesn't do games or gimmicks. They just get straight to the point by getting you the best deal possible. Score big today at South Point Dodge. Come see us off I-35 in South Austin or at southpointdodge.com. South Point Dodge is Austin's automotive everything. If you're looking to sell your car, get to South Point. Get South Point's best offer over the phone or online. Again, southpointdodge.com. Those Ram trucks are really heated up right now. One of the more popular vehicles out on the road today. southpointdodge.com over off of I-35 in South Austin.
There was somebody has before our next super chat. I want to bring this up. Daniel Sweeten, Quinn draft stock needs big games for him the rest of the way. And it's about Texas winning games, and we have a lot of time after the season to talk when these guys are prepping for the NFL draft, but I 100% agree with that. As far as Quinn's draft stock, he needs to play really well the rest of the way.
Damon Chandler and Jerry, that will take. I'm going to let you take this one. He says Evan Stewart, Jonte Cook, Micah Hudson. You rank them, and what's the difference in their skill sets?
Are we talking football or tweeting? We'll start with football. DeCorian Moore, and I said this when DeCorian Moore was a junior. He was the best receiver in the state of Texas, and it wasn't even close. Not even close. He's a freak. He's a super freak. That's just what he is. He is way, way up here. I think Evan Stewart, talent-wise, is second. I think Micah Hudson, talent-wise, is third. And I think Jonte Cook is four, just natural gifts, talent-wise. And I think all four of those guys are really, really good prospects. Really good prospects. So, Jonte, don't tweet at me. I'm not saying anything negative. I'm answering a question. I think y'all are all really talented. But I think DeCorian Moore's a super freak. I just think that's the reality of him. And I think Evan Stewart has some elite traits to him that he's got to maximize. And all these guys have to go maximize their talent. It doesn't matter how good I think DeCorian Moore is. He's got to go do it now at the next level. I do think he has the ability to be a first-team All-American and a really, really high NFL draft pick. I think he's pretty special talent-wise.
Good stuff. And then our next one comes from Seth, guys. He says this team has quality depth and depth that has stayed pretty healthy. Becton is an unsung hero of the development and program overall.
I agree with you. I don't think Steve Sarkisian sees him as unsung, by the way. He mentioned him twice in his press conference yesterday. Seth, I agree with you, man. I don't know what else to say. Texas has been relatively healthy. The bigger and one of the ways you get depth, though, Jerry and Blake, is you actually develop people. Trevor Goosby is an example. He didn't come in ready to go play at Texas. It took time. You develop that. That's 2 years of that young man's hard work combined with his guidance of whether it's the nutrition guy or woman or Tori Becton's kind of oversight.
Yeah.
You don't do that. And I think one of the things in talking to some folks close to the program that Tori Becton does a good job of is helping with the culture. We talk a lot about the Texas culture, how these kids are bought in and they're working hard. That's not just from Steve. I mean, Steve Sarkisian is the guy. The buck stops with him, right? But I think by and large the kids like Tori Becton and his staff.
Yeah.
Now they also respect him. Now some more so than others, all that other stuff. But that's part of the culture of building a team, right? Not everybody. Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent there, but very happy with that aspect of the program from a development standpoint. And that leads to your depth and leads to higher draft picks long-term, which is a self-fulfilling prophecy because then you get more recruits, et cetera, et cetera.
Our next super chat comes from MJF. MJF says, with the regular season over, who is our offensive MVP? Who's the defensive MVP? Who's the overall MVP and the coaching staff MVP?
Coaching staff MVP, I think, is Nansen because I think what he's brought coupled with PK has kind of completed the Texas defensive scheme and the continuity of the staff. And not that it wasn't before, but I just think it's been a really good marriage. Scotty Hazelton, obviously that rule change where he can coach the nickels as well. I would give Johnny Nansen the coaching MVP because of kind of helping tie the whole thing together based on what we've seen. Offensive MVP, I'm going to surprise people. I'm going to say Jake Majors.
I was thinking Majors, Banks, or Helm. Yeah. And of late, it's been Wiser, but early in the year it wasn't, so you can't say the whole year. You'd like to say yours, but he missed a couple games. Helm, Banks, and Majors have been the constants, in my opinion.
Yeah, defensive MVP. That's a tougher one. That's a tougher one to pick. I mean, you could go Baron Sorrell for his consistency, his leadership, his toughness, and everything he brings every day. You could go Anthony Hill because he's the the best playmaker. Anthony Hill's probably the guy most people would go with. I mean, you could go a number of places on defense.
Jade, Aunt Makuba. I mean, I asked Sark yesterday at that press conference, Jerry, specifically, how did you, when you said you were going to rebuild the secondary and you weren't worried about the secondary in the offseason, he talked about the process of doing that. Said the first decision he made was to move Jade to corner, play him primarily at corner. Then Terrence Brooks hit the portal. So that was the plan. Then that allowed them to get Jalen Gilbo on the field, who they thought was really high end. Then the next piece was they went out and got Andrew Makuba. And then they started just building that group up. And I don't know if there is a defensive MVP. I mean, if I had to pick one, I'd probably go with Hill. But because he's going to lead the team in tackles. How many sacks does he have? That's that. Good question.
Yeah.
I agree with you on coaching MVP.
Did somebody ask special teams MVP too?
No. Overall.
Overall. That's interesting.
Man, I don't know.
Maybe
that's yet to be revealed.
Maybe.
Good point.
Somebody makes big plays down the stretch here, makes an interception, does something otherworldly. Let's see.
Our next super chat is a request from Jeff. Bobby, he says, love you guys. It's the best coverage, but can we spring for a new microphone for Rod B?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We'll take care of that.
And then Jeff Carey, he says, Quinn really did play great in the first half.
He did. Well, I mean, look, until that bats stretch in the third quarter, which counts for your overall game, before that, he looked like Michigan Quinn to me in that game. After he got settled in, the first couple of drives in that game, ankle was okay. We're going to be okay. This is going to be okay. I think after he got settled in, that was as high a level play as from Quinn as I've seen since Michigan until the bad part.
And we're going to stay on Quinn here for a second, guys, because HP with the super chat, HP says Quinn needs higher situational awareness. Example, compare Quinn's run where he steps out. He had the lane open. Art scores, stays in. How does this get fixed before Georgia?
You can't. I mean, that's just learned behavior. You know, you just can't. You're not going to be able to fix it. But I will say this. Quinn needs to be more hyper aware and of the football. He can't put the football in harm's way like he did Saturday night.
Wow.
Not if Texas wants to go win a national championship.
I mean, he's 30 starts into it now. That throw can't be made. That late throw when there's no separation, can't make that throw. Not with the games coming up.
And then Pooh with the super chat. Thank you, Pooh. He says, greetings from South Korea. Maybe it's just me, but Art seems to get the team pretty jacked when he's on the field. How does our new offense look in the era of Arch Manning?
More drop back without play action, more deep down field throws. And Jerry, this is a question for you.
More QB waggle.
Yeah, definitely more QB waggle. What I wonder, like Parker Livingstone, I'm going to give you an example. Okay. It's also personnel driven on the outside.
Yeah.
You're gonna recruit more flyers that can really stretch the defense with Arch, right? Because he can throw it. He's got a strong deep ball. You're also going to go grab guys that can kind of body up people deep.
You're seeing that recruiting.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say to you.
Blake Lockett is a 50-50 back shoulder ball winner.
Yes, that's how. And it's just a slight tweak because Sark's still not going to go away from his bread and butter. He's not. It's just those, instead of check down or an out route on the outside to a running back one-on-one, it might be a back shoulder 15 yards down the field. Just subtle things. The base of the offense will stay the same. 11, 12 personnel, some pony package. That's what it'll be. Good question.
Yep, for sure. Our next one here comes from Jeff Carey once again. Thank you. As always, Jeff, he says, guys, with revenue sharing, NIL, recruiting, portal, development, and everything involved in game prep and game execution, head coaching is crazy difficult. Super props to Sark.
They earn their money. I'll say that. People say, man, these guys make a lot of money. Man, it ain't for this is not college football head coach is not for the faint of heart anymore in recruiting.
No, it's not. And it's involving more than just coaches nowadays. But he has, as well as any coach in the country, made that jumbled mess make the end product look pretty freaking good. You know what I mean? It is. I think we all agree it's a jumbled mess. And Jeff, you're right. Congrats. I have my hats off to him. I still can't believe Texas won 17-7 and A&M didn't score a touchdown. I'm sitting here. We're an hour and a half into this show. I mean, y'all realize that? They didn't score. I mean, they didn't score. I mean, at what point do you look around to your offense coordinator and your defense coordinator? Guys, what game plan did y'all have tonight? If I'm Mike Elko, I'm not worried necessarily that you probably knew you were going to get whipped a little bit on the lines at times. I'm worried that I got beat on both sides all night long and that my coaching staff didn't do jack to do anything about it. I mean, I'm not just questioning my kids and my personnel. I'm questioning the people that are in the headsets because they did nothing. I mean, what did A&M do on defense or on offense to do anything? And I mean, you can't stop outside zone, even when you know it's coming for a quarter and a half. I mean, they knew that what Texas was going to run for a quarter and a half, and they stopped them twice after 3 or 4 first downs. And David Keith Williams, right? Texas should have beaten A&M 34-0. In that range,
yeah.
At worst, 27-0.
Yeah.
That was a bad A&M football team. That was a bad product that Mike Elko put out there. And he, you know, A&M fans are giving him some leeway because it's his first year, and I get it. He's still 8-4, and that is still a team that literally had one of the best recruiting classes of all time. The shell of it.
Yeah, shell of it.
But still, Jerry.
Yeah.
That recruiting class with that shell was ranked higher than the Texas recruiting class that's left. This is a bad product he put out there on Saturday night. And it was covered up by one interception return for a touchdown. So people won't remember it that way, but that was a bad product he produced.
And that will probably motivate in recruiting.
Well, we shall see.
Yeah. It will.
I mean, how much faith are you going to have? Right now we're hearing they're going to fire their defense coordinator after that. Okay. Colin Klein, by the way, is 0-8 against Texas as an offensive coordinator.
No doubt.
So maybe you might want to look that way too. I don't know.
Yeah.
Our next super chat comes from David. And David said, for Horns worried about 5 stars, see Michael Taft.
Trevor Goosby.
That's very rare, but yes.
Yes, it's very rare, but Trevor Goosby was a guy. Barron Sorrell was a guy that wasn't just this super blue chip. I mean, heck, Jahdae Barron was originally committed to Baylor.
Yeah.
You know, that Texas done a great job. Trey Wisner was not, they even talked about it. Trey Wisner was not, he was highly recruited. Okay. Trey Wisner was highly recruited, but he wasn't a top 5 back in the country. I mean, he even went to DeSoto and they moved him to wide receiver. Texas is doing a great job evaluating, developing, and recruiting. Period.
It's actually a good question here. Kevin Todd brings up because I I wanted to bring this up. We've had so much going on this show. Kevin Todd, do you think they'll make a rule against planting flags? I actually do think that's coming because
They
this week in you had mace sprayed in Michigan players' faces. We had multiple fights. I actually do think that's coming. Yes,
and it should.
Yeah, I mean it's
just
because all it's going to do, it's going to lead to something worse than what you saw Saturday. You don't want that.
Yeah, I want my son going to Michigan or Ohio State so they can get mace sprayed in their face.
Didn't Ryan Day spray?
Ryan Day is just sitting back there. What happened? What's going on?
Well, Ryan Day sprayed his own team with mace
during the game.
He sprayed his own
offense. The game, he just sat back and watched.
Guys, I'm sorry I sprayed mace in my offense's face. They couldn't really see what the play calls coming in or who to block. Give me another year. I promise I'll get off third base this year. I promise. I got a good lead. I'm going to steal home.
All right. Matt Hanley with the super says, gents, thoughts why this team struggles in the third quarter? It's been constant since the Sugar Bowl. I also take back everything bad I said about PK in 21 and 22.
I think that there's a couple things there. One has been, and I'll say this multiple times, Texas in the third quarter has been so far ahead of teams. Texas, how many times this year has Texas taken 2-score leads into the halftime? I think in every game except one. Is that right?
Yeah.
Did they have a 2-score lead against Vanderbilt going into half? Somebody in the chat go back and look at that. But I think that my point is, I think being up like that has a mental effect about how Steve Sarkisian calls the game in the third quarter when he thinks he has a defense. If you're up by 17, are you really going to come back and beat Texas? If he just runs some clock, gets a few first downs, maybe kicks a field goal. Are you?
It was the 21-10, Bobby, at the half.
So that's my point. It's like Bill Parcells used to do this with the New York Giants. They'd go up by 3 scores, and he'd just start draining clock, not caring what the final score was. And I'm not saying Sark does that completely, but to your point, there are precious few times where they just put the pedal to the metal. They did it against Florida, for example. They just laid it on. Sometimes you do it, sometimes you don't. Keeping the ball out of harm's way is the most important thing, though. I guess, was Arkansas a 2-score lead at half? I can't remember.
I am looking.
13-3 maybe at half.
It was 10-0.
10-0. So see what I'm saying? They've had 2-score leads, and so you're a little reticent to go out there and just open it up for no reason, throw a deep ball, and all of a sudden it's picked, and I don't know. Just a thought.
Look, I think a big part of it is if you're in control of a game, you want to wear down your opponent, and you want to continually show them that you're in control of the game. And you recruit large humans on the offensive line to control a game as a game moves along, because you want those big bodies hitting you for 4 quarters, and then in the second half, if you get control of that game, you can lean on those teams. That's the way the plan is supposed to work. So I think that's part of it too. I think it's developing the identity that Sark wants this program to have in a weird way as well.
And our next one, guys, comes from Slick Rick, and he says, Bobby, can we get an extra 30 minutes of coffee and football today? Well, you're getting it. Texas beat all 3 rivals and is headed to the SEC championship. What a time to talk UT football.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Dude, I could talk Texas football all day. I was jumping around yesterday. I was a little I had to take my son to there's Jerry eating the corn dog again.
I still got corn dog eat. I'm good.
Are you on the second corn dog at least now?
Well, no, I'm almost through both of my double bare-fisted corn dogs.
Two things I didn't need to see this morning. Put those down. Yes, I was jumping around a little hyper, a little happy yesterday. Excited about where Texas is headed with this football team. Look, if you can't appreciate and have fun with this, I don't know what to tell you, man. This is what it's all about, right? When you're a fan, seeing your team perform like they did, dominate your avowed opponent. I mean, I said it earlier. Texas has allowed one touchdown, one offensive touchdown to all three of its historical rivals combined. OU didn't score one. A&M didn't score one. Arkansas scored one. What else you want? We talked about your son today, Mr. Sorrell. Thanks for checking in with us. Hell of a fourth down stop.
Hey, one thing you can say, I can say about Barron Sorrell without being a parent or related to him is the way he's conducted himself, the consistency at Texas. I'm guessing they never had to tell him you got to do your homework. They probably never got an email from a coach saying, hey, Barron's, he's 4 assignments behind. I don't think the Sorrell family ever had to take that call from the English teacher.
Jerry, are you saying you had to?
I am that guy.
Well, I was going to say my parents had to probably before email.
Oh, man. Hey, guys, one question that we're also getting a lot today is injury updates for the team.
Yep.
What are we expecting there? When do you think we'll hear something a little more concrete?
Well, Sark is at 11:30, so we may hear more. He did not divulge anything yesterday. He said, I don't know yet on Kelvin Banks. And he left it at that, went to the next question. Obviously, Jerry mentioned Jaden Blue earlier in this discussion or in this live stream. Jaden Blue, we believe it was a stinger. CJ reported on Saturday night late that Jaden Blue was actually ready to come back in the game and waiting on the sideline if called upon. So even though he went out of the game, a lot of people saw that. It looked like he was ready to come back in the game. So we believe that was just a stinger. CJ, if you didn't know this, the last 5 minutes of a game, they send the media group down to the field of play so they can have quick access to the press conference room. And so CJ was on the field and saw that, and then he reported that to us. So other than Kelvin Banks, no known injuries. Quinn Ewers obviously still getting over the ankle, but he was good enough to go this past week. Hopefully he's good enough to go this week.
Todd Lacey, speaking of injuries, says, wonder if Georgia has some serious injury issues after the 8 overtime game. But not only that, but guys, how much do you think that 8 overtimes will come into effect this upcoming week?
They had the extra day, though.
True.
They get the extra day because that game was on a Friday, right? And Kirby Smart mentioned that. They are banged up at running back right now.
Yeah.
And I think that ETN, if he goes, is going to be limited. I think a couple of their other guys. We'll see mostly Nathan Frazier. Is that his name? Frazier?
Yeah, he's very, very, very good.
Yeah. Is a younger kid.
Freshman.
Corn Dog Bobby.
Water day.
Yeah.
Bobby,
sorry,
I'll do it if you do. Come on.
No.
He says not to let you off the hook.
Right here you go. Okay. Mustard.
No.
Yeah,
No.
Mustard.
Yeah.
If Texas wins the national championship, I'll do mayonnaise.
Oh, man. It's
Only
like
national championship. Gross.
Just for the record, I was fully prepared to eat on this.
I know Blake was. Blake was in.
And they serve corn dogs downstairs starting at 11. So if nothing else, I'll buy one this evening and keep it.
If you're listening and need a new sponsor, I'll do the best ad read for you.
Hellman's. Go for it.
Oh, all right. Let's see here. This next one, making sure I haven't skipped any because we have so many today, is going to be from It's 420 Somewhere. Shout out to the Horns faithful chanting, "We can't hear you," in Kyle Field. So much trolling of the poor Aggies, and I love every bit of it.
That was a textbook on how to take a tremendous crowd out of a football game. Here's the textbook part of it. Your head coach has a chance to get points the first drive and decides to go for it. Dumb. With the crowd behind you. Dumb. Chasing points to start a game. Dumb. And then Texas does what they did on the line of scrimmage and methodically beats somebody and gets up multiple scores. That's how you take a tremendous crowd out of a game.
Jerry, think about, I have a friend of ours. We have a friend, you and I have a mutual friend that he goes to all the games and he always takes a picture post game, especially in other stadiums. In the last 2 years, he's been in Alabama, Michigan, Arkansas, Cotton Bowl, Texas A&M, and he's taking the same picture. Now, I posted it of him on the YouTube site or the YouTube community thread for you guys to see it. But he's got some sweet pictures the last 2 years. And, I also thought that Texas had a little mocking SEC cheer chant going at the end of that too, by the way.
Yep. Next one is from Trace Little. Trace, we appreciate you as always. Thoughts on player development? Helm, Goosby, Wisner are all great examples. Are we going to be happy with our class or sad?
If you're not happy with this recruiting class, I don't know what to tell you. Even if you lose a couple, you're going to gain a couple. You guys just got to wait for a little bit this to come out the other side. Helm, Goosby, Wisner, even Jade Barron, Jalen Gilbo. Jalen Gilbo wasn't some big name recruit. Barron Sorrell. Ethan Burke has been how well has Ethan Burke been developed?
LaFowl.
Jeez.
By the way, again, Saturday night, I'll tell you, I think we all agree in the chat who's going to be a really good future player, defensive player at Texas. Ty Anthony Smith.
Yep.
Ty Anthony Smith is going to be a stud. Yeah. And what's going to aid that? Physical and player development, because he's got the rest of it.
How about this too, Jerry? How about the development of elite players? So a lot of people get 5 stars, and Texas got 5 stars through the years and just didn't develop them well enough, or something happened. But go look, Kelvin Banks came in as a 5-star, playing like a 5-star. DJ Campbell came in as a 5-star.
Yeah.
It took him some time to really learn the possession.
Because he played as much D-line as OL, Bobby, and he never played guard. He played tackle. That's a lot of development in front of a guy.
That's what I'm saying. But look at that offensive line and what they've done.
Jake Majors didn't play center in high school.
Just it's across the board. They're doing a great job.
And by the way, Ethan Burke was a young football player that was a lacrosse, McDonald's All-American level lacrosse player. That takes time to develop.
Good stuff, man. Just good stuff.
Okay, the Mexican Wolverine, thank you for the super chat. He says, will we see more Arch again? Mobile quarterbacks give the dogs issues.
They better come up with some tweak off of it.
Yeah, that's not going to work next week.
Yeah. That would be my only
I think you may see a throw out of it this week if you.
Yeah, you can't be one-dimensional like that against Georgia.
I mean, that play that Arch scored on against Georgia, Jalen Walker makes that tackle right at the first down line, and you're hoping you get the spot. That's the difference.
Yeah. I agree with Jerry. Some teams that works. Some teams you could bully. Don't know that you could bully Georgia. You might be able to hold them at bay, best them every so often. I don't think you're going to bully them. Texas bullied A&M on Saturday. Texas was the big man on the block, and they treated A&M like little brother because they were. They didn't score any points.
Somebody in our chat said A&M fans are up in arms because McConaughey was on the sideline Saturday. I thought he's actually an employee of the university, by the way, just so everybody's clear on that.
They're up in arms over McConaughey. What do they have to do?
Well, that's
up in arms about their offense sucking.
The worst thing is when
their defense not being able to handle.
The worst thing is when you get beat physically on the field and mentally off the field. That's the worst loss you can take.
physically on the field and mentally off of it.
That's the worst loss in sports, man.
Dude, that is so true. That just speaks to it more than anything. Good stuff. Good stuff. I hope everybody knows we're just doing this in good fun. But sometimes things ring true, Jerry. Thank you very much.
All right, our next super chat from V Brown. Thank you, V Brown. What's the likelihood all 5 offensive linemen leave after this season? If so, what's your way too early starting offensive line next year?
I think the chances have gone up the last 3 or 4 games considerably. Yeah. I mean, look, DJ Campbell's a good game against Georgia and a good playoff game from being right there. He's just got a lot of tenacity about him, a lot of will and want to with athleticism. Starting line next year, Bobby. I mean, look, it's if you just going off who the backups are right now, you go Goosby, go NATO. Center will be a battle, Connor Robertson or Daniel Cruz. I think Daniel Cruz has got a great future. I think Connor Roberts is a good player. Right guard will be Cole Hudson, right tackle Brandon Baker. Now,
or Cole Hudson at center. Or Cole Hudson.
If you lose both guards, though, I don't know.
Yeah, that might be right. That might be fair. Yeah, they're going to want somebody that has some experience doing what they do.
And I'll say this about the center battle. And I'm not saying what's going to happen. If Daniel Cruz were to win the job as a redshirt freshman, that means he would beat out old, experienced Connor Robertson and develop Connor Robertson. And the possibility of Cole Hudson playing Summit Center, you probably have an future All-American on your hands in a scenario like that.
Yeah, he's a great player on the rise, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
The backup tackles will be interesting.
Maybe the starters are interesting because you just don't know. I mean, Jaden Chapman is going to give somebody a run somewhere, too. And then you got the newcomers, Nate Kibble. They like him. We'll see. Andre Kojo.
V Brown, thank you again. Or I'm sorry, not V Brown. Slick Rick, thank you again for another super chat. Who's left on the defensive line board losing out on Mbachu, Charles, and Terry? Why is our defensive line recruiting taking a tumble if Texas looks like the best team right now?
Has Texas lost on Myron Charles and Justice Terry? Are we sure of that, Jerry?
I mean, I'm not. I've been on the show for 2 hours, though, so I may have missed something.
Well, we have gone 2 hours. That's crazy.
I've got a corn dog headache right now.
Hey, Blake, before we go any further, I need to say thank you to our sponsor. Thank you to Longhorn Wealth Management Group President John Donovan. As a proud UT alum, John has served 15 years as a Dallas, Texas X board member and is now helping lead the build-out of the Collin County, Texas X's chapter, which will be hosting an SEC tailgate party and watch game this Saturday at the Brass Tap in Plano for all fans interested in and around Collin County. Also, for a free 90-minute private consultation to evaluate how John can help you identify the best financial strategies and solutions to maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and secure your legacy. Simply call John and his team at 972-707 or at 4900 or go online longhornwealth.net. That's 972-707-4900 or go online www.longhornwealth.net to schedule your free private consultation today. John hopes to see you guys in Atlanta on Saturday to help cheer on the Longhorns to the SEC Championship. Hook 'em from John Donovan and the fellows at Longhorn Wealth Management Group.
I got a question for the chat. There's only like 7,000 people right now for YouTube and online. I got a question though. No matter what happens after, if Texas won the SEC, if they beat Georgia Saturday, where would your scale of 1 to 10? Where would you be pleased with this season? No matter what happens in the playoffs.
I want more.
I know, but I'm just asking.
Oh, that means it wouldn't be a 9 even. It'd be a 7 or a 7.5 to an 8, maybe an 8. I want Texas needs to get at least to the semifinals in the college football playoffs, and then Let's roll the dice, baby. That
By
would
the
be
way,
my
games at 3 p.m. Saturday for those that run them.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you? Isn't that is an 8 fair to you, Jerry?
Yeah,
They win this game. The worst you can be is an 8 because
I'm an 8 either way in this game. Win or lose, I'm an 8 in this game because I think getting there this year meant you were going back to the playoff this year, and that means you sustain success. I mean, I think sustained success was huge for the team this year and the program this year. It really set you up. And getting to the SEC championship in year one in the SEC, and you think A&M wishes they had been the one, is pretty significant. I think it being Georgia and what happened the first game does add some significance to winning that game. I mean, if you were playing undefeated Alabama or something and you lost and you went to the playoffs as a 6th seed, and I think people would be like, yeah, I mean, but because of the way Georgia handled Texas and Austin, I think it gives a little extra significance to this game headed into the playoffs.
Right. R.A. Flores says this could potentially be trip 1 of 3 for Texas to Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Georgia if Texas plays in the Peach Bowl and the national championship game.
University of Texas at Atlanta, here we come.
Yep.
There's a good ring to it.
I have no problem with that. Thanks for posting that, RA. Letting us think. I didn't even thought about it.
And then our next one, guys, comes from Jackson Arnold's agent. Once again, thank you. Will the Combine and Pro Days help Quinn come back to a first rounder in the NFL draft?
I think he's got – the book is still out on Quinn. You know, he can still move up or down, in my opinion. Because – and I think George is a big one for him. Because it is the worst he's looked as a college quarterback since Oklahoma State in 2022. So can he withstand a full man rush like Georgia brings? It's the first time, and Jerry mentioned that he got pulled against Georgia. What does he do round 2? The measure of a man is not what he does when everything is easy. It's what he does when it's hard. Let's see what happens.
This should be as motivated as he's been for a game in a long time, if not ever.
And our next one from Leon here. Leon, thank you for the super chat. He says, do you think that Stark loves to play on the road more than at home? And will this be an advantage in the SEC title game? He loves to quiet the crowd.
I think a lot of great teams like the road more than home.
Yeah.
I mean, I really, if you just look at it, if you're wired the right way and you've got that connectivity, I think being on the road is kind of fun and challenging and can even bring those guys together even more so because you take on that. We know everybody hates us and wants to see us lose when you're on the road. When you're at home, the ticket request, all your girlfriends, and I mean, like some guys, all their girlfriends individually. I mean, like all of it, tickets, trading tickets back and forth, pats on the back. Everybody wants to see your NIL car. I mean, there's a lot going on. It's almost better to play on the road.
Jerry, I asked Rod Babers and Brian Robeson this question because they've gone through it, right? What Rod said, I think, was prescient. It says that going on the road, if you really love ball, it allows you to focus.
Yeah.
On just ball.
Yeah.
He goes, that's all it is. You go there and maybe you watch a movie or something. But other than that, you're just thinking about ball the whole day. It allows you to focus going on the road. That's something to think about.
Yeah. And it's only team.
Yes. I mean, your parents come and may pat you on the back, but you're not thinking about, where are we going to go have dinner after the game? Or, when am I going to see grandma?
Yeah.
I mean, little things like that. I mean, I'm not saying it's perfect, but it does. I can see what Rod was talking about. It allows you to focus. If you really love ball, you're going to be doing that. You're not going to be texting and doing everything else, right? So.
And Miracle Martinez says, appreciate on Texas football. Hook 'em for the Mike Fund, Bobby. I've got 2 SEC championship tickets I won't be able to use due to health. Not being well, I'm emailing you to see if anybody wants to buy.
All right, I'll definitely put that out to some folks. And if we want to do something somewhere here, we can try to do that, Miracle, if you need to. By the way, I'm sorry about your health. I hope you get better so you can go to the championship games and playoffs. But sorry about your health right now, and hope you get better, bud.
Yeah, get well soon.
Yep.
Corey B says, Jerry, Bobby, what do y'all think of that dirty Will Lee versus Matthew Golden play?
I mean, I don't see how a flag was not thrown on that play. I said it during the watch at the time. Bobby, you've watched the game how many times? That was a flag all the way in the end zone. I can't believe they did not throw a flag on that play.
And the play against Silas Bolden. He's the same guy that did the one on Silas Bolden, the Texas sideline. I think what happened on that one play with Will Lee, Jerry, is it was a run play, and the back judge was looking for holding on the interior. And so he wasn't really looking downfield.
Yeah.
Will Lee just got away with it. But cheap shot player, in my opinion, is what he is.
Yeah.
Can't handle losing. Just a thought or a feel.
They should be able to. Is at Kansas State for 3 years.
Can't say cheap shot player. That's too rough on anybody. I'm sorry. I apologize, Will. But not a.
Well, it was
not a. He's a poor loser, in my opinion. That's what it showed.
I'm all for the hyper competitive guy. I'm all for that. But some of the antics for him, you better be an all pro to do the things he does.
Yeah. Sorry. I feel bad about saying that because I don't want to say that about anybody. So good question here. Will Lance Jackson grow into a DT? I don't think so. I think you're going to see Lance Jackson be a 6'6", 280-ish, 285-ish, strong side end that can be a monster in the NASCAR package moving inside.
All right. UT Rocks 2005 says, when's the last time Texas beat Arkansas, OU, and A&M? Was it 2008?
Somebody in the chat, was it 1980?
Well, I thought that it was that
Maybe
someone posted it
on the road
a while back. But what year did they play Arkansas when Mac was the coach? Was that at home? Was that 08?
2008 was the last time Texas beat all three. I think on the road was 81.
Yeah. I was going to say, I thought it was 08.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Very.
Texas did a good job. Hey, by the way, some rivalries just went away. I thought Texas did a nice job of scheduling Arkansas after they left the Southwest Conference. Just to put that out there for everybody. Like some conference, like we never played A&M again, right? Probably won't play Texas Tech. Some rivalries, at least every so often, we saw Matt Jones and Darren McFadden and those guys. It kind of stayed at least a little alive at times. So that was actually healthy, I thought. But now we got them back forever.
And I'm going to put these next two together. UT Rocks 2005. Thank you again. He says, did y'all see that Reed was tipping his pitches with his feet pre-snap pass run like Ryan Tannehill? That's bad coaching. And then John Campbell. John says, did y'all notice Marcel Reed tipping plays with his feet alignment?
I heard about that and went back and watched the game to see it. That is about 90% correct. But the more pronounced ones when he was doing it were from empty formations. Of course, he's, even if even if it's a run, it's going to be a pretend drop back and a QB draw. Did it matter? I think it probably did at times, especially on short yardage, by the way.
Trace Little, thank you again. Who's the worst fan base in your opinion that Texas plays? I know who it is for baseball.
Who?
Tennessee.
Okay.
Hands down.
Oh, well.
Don't get yourself in trouble.
Toss up between OU and A&M for me. And you have enough? Maybe who do you have, Jerry? Tech.
Next year is going to be a battle because Texas plays at Ohio State for that worst fan base.
They are particularly spicy.
Yeah,
like they look to get into fights. While I think that from a Texas perspective, OU and A&M are the worst fan bases just because of the natural rivalries, they actually have good fan bases. Right? They have overall fan bases. So worst, maybe used to be Tech, kind of spiteful a little bit. Like I don't sense spitefulness in OU. I just sense a rivalry kind of. I sense a little spitefulness in Aggie as being little brother kind of thing. But Texas Tech definitely had that spitefulness. I don't know. I mean, it's worse is all relative. I don't want to label someone bad, but those are my thoughts.
Yeah.
Tennessee was bad. I have no problem telling you.
In
baseball. It was awful. Anyway, a couple more here before we get out of here. Arnold says, can we run the outside zone against Georgia?
That's the question. Jake Majors is going to have his work cut out for him. But if he can do it, I think he'll be the key focal point of that. Because I think Banks and Williams will be able to handle it. The guards and Jake Majors.
And the big part, too, of that game is it was pretty easy for Kirby to get his team up to that level for that game. He can't get them up to that level for that game twice after they already won. So it's going to be interesting because Georgia was extreme, hyper level jacked up for that game. And executing and just being the more physical football team, aside from what Bobby's talking about with the talent. Kirby's got a job on his hands this week. How does he get them that up again? And maybe if better playing Carson Beck, you don't need him that up again. But you can't get that team to that level twice against the same team when you already beat them once. It's not going to happen.
Texas wins on Saturday, Jerry. They have a chance to be the 1 seed if Oregon loses to Penn State.
Yeah.
Something to stew on there for everybody.
You think
the 1 seed plays 8-9 in the quarterfinals?
You do it. I do think Penn State has a shot against Oregon because I think they're good enough defense. And they got really good running. If they can control the game, against Oregon, Penn State's got 2 NFL running backs. So, and they got one of the toughest mismatches in college football in Warren. And Penn State's good on defense. Now, are they going to be perimeter good enough in that game? We'll see. But if Penn State can get control of that game, they have a real chance with their backs.
Casey says hard to trust James Franklin versus a really good. His record versus top 5 or even top 10 is horrible.
Yeah,
horrible.
He's got to break through at some point. Yeah. I mean, you have to, right?
Yeah. All right. Tracy Williams says, and this should be our final one for today, guys. And thank you, Tracy. Did the Texas versus Texas A&M game change your perspective about either team? Will bottle caps be removed from all drinks on Saturday?
It did change my perspective about A&M. They're just not very good. They lost 3 of their last 4 games, guys. They're just not very good. That's my opinion. They got hot a little early. I think they got lucky when they inserted Marcel Reed and LSU wasn't ready for the zone read. And after that, they went down. I mean, Auburn won 1 game all year, or 2 games all year in conference, right, Jerry?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of those was against the Aggies. I just don't think they were very good. They were 8-4. They weren't very good. They caught teams by surprise when Wegman played against Missouri. They had been prepping for Reed all week. They got surprised when Reed went in against LSU. LSU had been prepping for Weigman all week. There you go. After that, when Colin Klein lost the element of surprise, his offense went south. That's why they're 8-4. Blake, you're muted, buddy.
Had to do it one last time before I got out of here, obviously. But we are done. That is going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group. Want to thank them, along with Public Rec, HelloFresh, Duck Camp, and South Point Dodge for sponsoring today's show. Thank you all for tuning in to this extra long edition of Coffee and Football. Great questions, great super chats. Sorry we couldn't get to everybody's questions today. We had over 125 in the queue at one point, which is just absolutely crazy. But you guys will be back here very quickly. Sark's presser here in just a little bit. Bobby, what else you got today?
Yeah, 11:30 Sark's presser. CJ's going to be there and reporting post-press conference to go over everything that Sark said, have a little reaction. That'll probably start around 11:45 to noon. We also have the winning drive today with Bob Shipley, Rod Babers, and CJ Vogel. Rod and Bob, I think Bob's going to be pretty happy with what happened today. Can't wait to see what he has to say or hear what he has to say. And then Jerry and I are back tonight at 7 for Talking Ball. We'll take your questions, comments as well. I do want to add one more thing, guys. Make sure you visit On Texas Football recruiting news. I can tell Jerry's on his phone right now dealing with recruiting news that's coming in. Make sure you visit ontexasfootball.com. Jerry's not even smiling or smirking because I know it's true. OnTexasFootball.com is where we'll deliver the latest recruiting news. Please join us there. It's a subscription, $39.95 for 1 year. That's $20 off the regular price and much better than you can get anywhere else online. OnTexasFootball.com. Use code OTFOG for 1 year.
It actually wasn't recruiting news. We've had like a lot of people in the chat saying Harold Perkins hit the portal, and I was actually looking on my phone to see if I had any confirmation of that, but I don't see that. Doesn't mean it's not there. I don't know if that's
wow.
I don't see where that's official though. And maybe it's speculation.
And if that happens, it's going to be crazy. Hey, also, if you want something for Christmas, shop.ontexasfootball.com. We've got hats, mugs, etc. Appreciate you guys being a part of the On Texas Football family. We really do. Can't wait till this Friday. We're gonna have a little party in Atlanta. Hot Atlanta's gonna turn burnt orange.
And also, before you leave us today, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell so you're notified anytime we go live or post content, and you won't miss a thing, especially now with National Signing Day 2 days away, playoffs, everything else that's going on. No better time to subscribe to On Texas Football, and then, as Bobby said, become a member at ontexasfootball.com. And we'll be back same time, same place tomorrow morning. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.